Chosen one, stop. Do not scroll past this tonight. You are being invited to a funeral. Not the funeral of someone you know, the funeral of someone you have been. There is a version of you that must die, and God is asking you to stop resuscitating it. I know this sounds harsh. You have been protecting this version for years. You have defended it, justified it, identified with it. This version kept you safe when nothing else could. This version helped you survive what should have destroyed you. But survival is not the same as living, and the version that kept you alive is now keeping you from your destiny. God is not asking you to hate who you have been. He is asking you to bury who you no longer need to be, so that who you are always meant to be can finally rise. At exactly 3:33 this morning, I was pulled into a vision that brought me to tears. I was standing in what looked like a funeral home in heaven. The walls were soft light. The atmosphere was both sorrowful and sacred, and in the center of the room was a coffin made of crystal. I walked closer to see who was inside, and when I looked down, I saw a face I recognized. It was you. But not the real you. It was the version of you that you created to survive. The version with walls so high no one could climb them. The version with armor so thick no love could penetrate it. The version with dreams so small disappointment could never reach them. The version that said yes when it meant no. The version that hid its gift so it would not be rejected. The version that played small so it would not be attacked. This version was lying in the coffin, eyes closed, hands folded, finally at rest. Then God walked into the room. Not as a king, as a mourner dressed in white. He stood over the coffin and spoke. He said, "This version served my child well. When they were wounded, this version protected them. When they were betrayed, this version guarded them. When they were broken, this version held them together. I do not despise this version. I honor it, but its assignment is complete. The war that created it is over. The survival it provided is no longer needed. Now it must be buried. Not with shame, with gratitude, not with rejection, with release. Tell my chosen ones that I am officiating funerals all over the earth tonight. The old versions are dying, and the real ones are finally being born. That funeral is for you. That coffin contains who you have been. And tonight, you must decide if you will let God bury it. Do not skip this message. Do not scroll away. If you leave before the seventh burial is revealed, you will keep living as someone who was only meant to be temporary. Stay with me until the end. The funeral is almost over, and the resurrection is waiting. Before we go deeper, I need you to do something. Type, "I release the old me" in the comments below. This is not just typing, this is your consent to the burial. You are telling God that you are ready to let the old version rest. The angels are waiting for your release. Type it now and subscribe immediately. Turn on all notifications. What comes after this video will reveal who you become after the funeral. Miss it and you will attend the burial but miss the resurrection. Subscribe now. You did not find this video by accident. You found it because you have been living as someone you were never meant to be permanently. God scheduled this funeral, and the burial cannot be postponed any longer. I know why you created this version. Life was not safe. People were not trustworthy. Love was not guaranteed. Pain was not avoidable. So you built a version of yourself that could handle what the real you could not. A version with thicker skin, a version with lower expectations, a version that needed less and risked less. A version that could survive in a world that seemed determined to destroy you. And it worked. You survived. You made it through. You are still here. But something has been dying inside you for years. Not the survival version, the real version. The one who dreamed without limits, the one who loved without walls, the one who believed without proof. That version has been suffocating beneath the armor. God says tonight, the version you created was necessary. But necessary is not the same as permanent. It was medicine for a season of sickness, but you keep taking medicine after the sickness has passed. It was a cast for a broken bone, but you keep wearing the cast after the bone has healed. It was protection for a war, but you keep wearing armor after the peace treaty has been signed. I am not angry at the version you created. I am grieving for the version it has buried. Tonight we reverse it. The survival version goes into the ground, and the real version finally breathes. Do not skip what comes next. The Spirit is about to reveal the 7 parts of the old self that must be buried tonight. Burial 1. The protector who never let anyone in. The first part being buried is the walls you built around your heart. The protector who decided that vulnerability was too dangerous. The guard who turned intimacy into a threat. God says, you learned early that letting people in meant getting hurt. So you built walls. You created distance. You became an expert at being present without being known. The protector served you well when people were unsafe. But now the protector is keeping safe people out. The walls that saved you from enemies are now blocking your allies. I am burying the protector tonight, not because protection is bad, but because the protector has become a prison. You cannot receive love through walls. You cannot experience intimacy through armor. The protector must die so connection can live. I know why you built those walls. Someone betrayed your trust. Someone used your vulnerability against you. Someone made you pay for being open. But the walls that protected you from pain are now protecting you from everything. From love, from connection, from the very relationships your soul craves. Jesus spoke over your walls. He said, I stand at the door and knock. Revelation 3:20. But some of my chosen ones have so many locks on their doors that even I cannot enter. I do not break down doors. I wait for them to be opened. The protector keeps adding locks. Tonight, I am asking you to remove them. Not all at once, but one by one, starting with the lock called fear. Let me in. I am safe, and I will teach you who else is safe. Within 14 days, you will feel the walls beginning to crack. Someone will offer you kindness, and you will not immediately distrust it. This is the burial taking effect. The protector is burial 1. Do not skip. The second burial goes even deeper. Burial 2. The perfectionist who feared failure. The second part being buried is the perfectionist. The version that believed mistakes were unforgivable. The identity that tied your worth to your performance. God says, somewhere you learned that your value depended on your perfection, that love was earned through flawless execution. That failure meant rejection, so you became the perfectionist, never risking what you might not succeed at, never attempting what you might not master, keeping your world small enough to control. But perfectionism is not excellence. It is fear wearing a productive mask. The perfectionist has stolen your joy. It has robbed you of adventure. It has kept you from the growth that only comes through failure. I am burying the perfectionist tonight. Not because excellence is wrong, but because the perfectionist is a tyrant, not a guide. How much have you not attempted because you were afraid of failing? How many dreams died in the planning stage because perfection was not guaranteed? How much of your life has been lived avoiding mistakes rather than pursuing meaning? The perfectionist kept you safe from embarrassment, but it also kept you safe from everything worth doing. Archangel Michael declared over your perfectionism, "I have watched chosen ones with extraordinary gifts refuse to use them because they could not guarantee perfection. They would rather have unused potential than imperfect performance." But heaven does not measure you by your flawlessness. Heaven measures you by your faithfulness, by your willingness to try even when success is uncertain, by your courage to fail forward. The perfectionist measures by results. God measures by obedience. These are not the same measurement. Ecclesiastes 11:4 activates over your paralysis. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. Stop watching the wind. Stop analyzing the clouds. Plant imperfect seeds. Reap imperfect harvests. The perfectionist must die so the participant can live. Within 21 days, you will attempt something you might fail at, and you will feel freedom instead of terror. This is the burial taking effect. The perfectionist is burial too. Hold on, do not leave. The third burial will expose what you have been hiding. Burial 3, the people pleaser who lost themselves. The third part being buried is the people pleaser, the version that said yes to survive, the identity that abandoned itself to be accepted. God says, you learned that acceptance required abandonment of self. That love was conditional on compliance. That safety meant saying yes when your soul screamed no. So you became the people pleaser, shape-shifting to meet expectations, disappearing into what others wanted you to be, losing yourself one compromise at a time. But the people pleaser is not kindness. It is survival disguised as generosity. The people pleaser is not love. It is fear of rejection dressed as service. I am burying the people pleaser tonight, not because service is wrong, but because you cannot serve from an empty self. You cannot give from someone who no longer exists. Be honest with yourself. How many times have you agreed when you wanted to disagree? How many boundaries have you abandoned to keep peace? How much of yourself have you erased to be accepted? The people pleaser kept you in relationships, but they were relationships with your mask, not with you. You were accepted, but you were not known. You were included, but you were not seen. Jesus spoke over your people-pleasing. He said, you cannot serve two masters, Matthew 6:24. And the people-pleaser tries to serve everyone. It tries to make everyone happy while making yourself miserable. This is not service. This is slavery. I did not die so you could live in bondage to approval. I died so you could live free, free to say no, free to disappoint, free to be yourself, even when yourself is not what others want. The people pleaser dies tonight, and the real you finally speaks. Galatians 1:10 activates over your freedom. If I was still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. You cannot please people and serve Christ. One must decrease. The people pleaser is decreasing tonight. Within 72 hours, you will say no to something you would have said yes to, and you will feel alive instead of guilty. This is the burial taking effect. The people pleaser is burial 3. Do not skip. The fourth burial will challenge your grip. Burial 4. The controller who could not trust God. The fourth part being buried is the controller. The version that gripped everything so tightly it could not receive anything. The identity that confused control with safety. God says, control became your religion after life proved unpredictable. If you could control outcomes, you could avoid pain. If you could manage circumstances, you could prevent disaster. If you could grip tightly enough, nothing could be taken from you. But control is an illusion, and the controller has exhausted you. You have been trying to play God with your life because you were afraid to trust the actual God with it. The controller cannot rest. The controller cannot receive. The controller cannot surrender. And destiny requires all three. I am burying the controller tonight, not because planning is wrong, but because your grip has become a prison for both you and everyone around you. How exhausted are you from trying to control everything? How much anxiety has the controller created while promising to prevent it? How many relationships have suffocated under your grip? The controller promised safety. It delivered slavery. You thought you were protecting yourself. You were imprisoning yourself. Archangel Michael declared over your control, I have watched chosen ones hold their blessings so tightly that the blessings died in their hands. I have seen them grip relationships until the relationships could not breathe. I have watched them control opportunities until the opportunities fled. There is a paradox in the kingdom. Open hands receive, closed fists lose. The controller keeps closing fists, but closed fists cannot catch what God is throwing. Let go, not because it is easy, because it is the only way to receive what is coming. Proverbs 3-5-6 activates over your surrender. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Trust, submit. Let him make your paths. These are not words the controller can obey, because the controller must die for trust to live. Within 21 days, you will release something you have been gripping, and you will feel relief instead of panic. This is the burial taking effect. The controller is burial 4. Stay until the end. The 5th burial will explain your small dreams. Burial 5. The minimizer who dreamed small to avoid disappointment. The 5th part being buried is the minimizer, the version that kept expectations low so they could never be unmet. The identity that dreamed small so disappointment could never be large. God says, you learned that big dreams create big disappointments. That hope is a setup for heartbreak, that the higher you reach, the farther you fall. So you became the minimizer, shrinking your vision, reducing your expectations, telling yourself that wanting less would protect you from the pain of not receiving. But the minimizer has not protected you from pain. It has protected you from life. It has kept you safe from disappointment by keeping you safe from destiny. I am burying the minimizer tonight, not because caution is wrong, but because you were not created for small. You were created for immeasurably more. What dreams have you shrunk because you were afraid they would not happen? What visions have you minimized because hoping felt too dangerous? What life have you refused to imagine because imagination had betrayed you before? The minimizer kept disappointment manageable, but it also kept life small. You avoided the pain of unmet expectations, but you also avoided the joy of exceeded ones. Jesus spoke over your small dreams. He said, I came that you might have life and have it abundantly. John 10:10. Not cautiously, not minimally, abundantly, but the minimizer cannot receive abundance. The minimizer does not believe in abundance. The minimizer thinks abundance is a trap. So it keeps reducing the vision until the vision fits inside its fear. Tonight, I am expanding your capacity. I am killing the minimizer so the dreamer can be resurrected. Dream again. Dream bigger than you have dared. What I have prepared is larger than your largest imagination. Ephesians 3:20 activates over your vision. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. Immeasurably more than you ask, than you imagine. The minimizer cannot receive this, but the real you can. Within 14 days, a dream you had abandoned will begin to stir again. Something you minimized will maximize itself. This is the burial taking effect. The minimizer is burial 5. Do not skip. The 6th burial will expose your hiding. Burial 6, the hider who avoided being seen, the 6th part being buried, is the hider. The version that stayed invisible to stay safe. The identity that confused hiddenness with humility. God says, visibility became dangerous for you somewhere. Being seen meant being targeted. Being noticed meant being criticized. Being visible meant being vulnerable. So you became the hider, shrinking in rooms, downplaying gifts, refusing platforms, calling it humility when it was actually fear. But the hider is not humble. The hider is terrified. True humility does not hide light. True humility shines light and gives God the glory. The hider gives no one glory because no one can see what has been hidden. I am burying the hider tonight, not because visibility is prideful, but because hiding what I created is the deepest form of ingratitude. How much have you hidden that was meant to be seen? How many gifts have you buried that were meant to be shared? How much of yourself have you shrunk that was meant to expand? The hider felt like protection. It was actually theft, stealing from the world what God meant for the world, keeping in darkness what was designed for light. Archangel Michael declared over your visibility, I have watched chosen ones with world-changing gifts hide in corners. They call it humility. Heaven calls it disobedience. You were not given gifts to bury, you were given gifts to multiply. The servant who buried his talent was not praised for humility. He was rebuked for fear. The hider has been robbing the world of what God deposited in you. Tonight, the hider is buried, so the world can finally see what was always meant to be visible. Matthew 5:14-15 activates over your emergence. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. You are light. Light is not hidden. Light is displayed. The hider kept putting bowls over your flame. Tonight, the bowls are removed. Within 21 days, you will step into visibility somewhere you have been hiding, and you will feel purpose instead of panic. This is the burial taking effect. The hider is burial 6. Stay until the very end. The 7th burial is the foundation of all the others. Burial 7, the doubter who never believed they were enough. This is the final burial. This is the root beneath all the other versions. The doubter who never believed you were enough, God says, beneath the protector, the perfectionist, the people pleaser, the controller, the minimizer, and the hider is the doubter, the one who looks in the mirror and sees lack, the one who compares and always comes up short, the one who disqualifies before anyone else can reject. This doubter has been the author of all the other versions. You built walls because you doubted you were worth knowing. You demanded perfection because you doubted you were worth loving as is. You pleased people because you doubted you were worth accepting as yourself. I am burying the doubter tonight, not because confidence is arrogance, but because the doubter has been lying to you your entire life. You have always been enough. You just never believed it. This is the deepest burial. The doubter has been whispering since childhood. You are not smart enough. You are not attractive enough. You are not talented enough. You are not good enough. Just not enough. Just not enough. And everything you built was compensation for the not enough you believed you were. But the doubter was wrong. From the very beginning, you were created by God, who does not make mistakes. You were designed with purpose that requires exactly who you are. You were enough before you accomplished anything, and you will be enough after you accomplish everything. Jesus spoke over your identity. He said, I chose you before the foundation of the world. Ephesians 1-4, not because I saw potential that would eventually be enough, because I saw you, and I called what I saw good. The doubter looks at the same you and sees lack. I look at you and see complete. The doubter sees what is missing. I see what is present. Tonight, the doubter is buried. And for the first time, you will see yourself through my eyes instead of yours. 2 Corinthians 12-9 activates over your sufficiency. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Sufficient, not lacking, not deficient, sufficient. You are enough because His grace is enough. Within 72 hours, the doubter's voice will begin to quiet. You will look in the mirror and see someone different, not perfect, but enough. This is the burial taking effect. The doubter is burial 7. The 7 burials have been revealed. The protector who never let anyone in, the perfectionist who feared failure, the people pleaser who lost themselves, the controller who could not trust God, the minimizer who dreamed small, the hider who avoided being seen, the doubter who never believed they were enough. All of them are going into the ground tonight. All of them have served their purpose. All of them are now being released with honor, not shame. And in their place, someone is rising. The real you. The one who was buried beneath all those survival versions. The one who has been waiting to breathe. Tonight, they finally breathe. Now attend the funeral. Say this out loud. Your voice finalizes the burial. Almighty Father, the one who attends funerals so resurrections can occur. I am ready to bury who I no longer need to be. I release the protector with gratitude for keeping me safe. I release the perfectionist with gratitude for pushing me toward excellence. I release the people pleaser with gratitude for teaching me to serve. I release the controller with gratitude for creating structure. I release the minimizer with gratitude for protecting me from disappointment. I release the hider with gratitude for shielding me from attack. I release the doubter with gratitude for keeping me humble. But their assignments are complete. The war is over. The survival is no longer needed, and the real me is ready to rise. I give you permission to bury what I have been, so I can finally become who I was always meant to be. I am enough without the protector. I am valuable without the perfectionist. I am worthy without the people pleaser. I am safe without the controller. I am capable of big dreams without the minimizer. I am meant to be seen without the hider. I am enough without the doubter's permission. Bury the old, resurrect the real. I am ready. In Jesus' name, amen. Heaven recorded that funeral. The burials are complete, and the real you is finally rising. Now complete the ceremony first. Like this video, this is not about numbers. This is about finality. When you press that button, you are closing the coffin. Do it now. Second, subscribe and turn on notifications. The next video reveals who you become after the burial. Miss it, and you will attend the funeral, but miss the resurrection. Subscribe now. Third, share this video with someone living as a survival version. They need to know the funeral is available to them too. Send this to them. Fourth, type "I release the old me" in the comments. Let other chosen ones at funerals see they are not alone. Let the burial be witnessed. Type it now. Chosen one. You came to this video living as someone you were only meant to be temporarily. You are leaving having buried who you no longer need to be. The survival versions served you well, but their service is complete. Thank them. Release them, bury them, and step into the resurrection that has been waiting for you. The funeral is over. The real you is finally alive. Amen.